beabadoobee's Fake It Flowers.
Yeah, her first actual LP, proper LP.
Yes.
12 songs, 41 minutes long. There were some singles on here, like the one I listened to first was Care. That was like a big single of hers that came before, and that was the only thing I listened to before the previously on the album.
True Audioface style.
True Audioface style, because I wanted to be surprised with the work, because I do genuinely like it.
I will say for the clip really fast, just housekeeping things, we did a beabadoobee bonus episode about how this like little random, barely 21 girl from England by way of Philippines managed to get like a TikTok song and become a hit. And it was just a really good artist in general that Sean was tracking even before the TikTok fame thing. So that's a really good episode. Check that out on YouTube or a previous episode of Audioface. I think it's 160 bonus. And yeah, that'll really catch you up to everything she's gone up to, and a really kind of busy pre-career beyond her before her first album. So it's really excited to get into this.
Yeah. So first proper LP. Kara starts it off. It's a pretty solid song. It's funny. I think it's the weakest song on the entire album, which is the first song. It's a decent song, but I think the rest of the work on it is really good. But I think it sets the theme of it pretty well when it gets into it. You get that like that grungy style, and her vocals are very prevalent in it and everything. But it's like a solid song to start it off on. But I just thought that it hit all the marks you wanted for rock, but I didn't think it was anything special per se.
Yeah, because I would definitely say it does a good job at being a first song on the album and it starts it off very well. Yeah. So I'll definitely give it that. But yeah, I could definitely say that it's not going to be like one of the highlight songs on here, and I definitely think pretty much every song after
that, it just kept getting better and better and better. Like, Worth It right after it, I thought it was a very, very good song. I like it to where, you know, our whole Rock is Dead conversation, I thought Worth It was one of the most complete rock songs I've heard in a long time, where it's just like it starts off, the instrumentals and musicality starts off like playing into your face, and then her lyrics, everything's very good. And I like her lyrics are getting a little bit better now, and her voice is getting a little bit better too. It's maturing, as you can tell, and you can hear it in here. Because she used to do this whole like almost raspy style singing, and she would go flip between raspy and actual, going into really good singing, back and forth between those two, and I like that.
Yeah, definitely good. I like Worth It kind of, when you kind of go back and describe it as having like a really good classic rock construction, I think of almost the song construction of Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind. So it's like a really good classic, like bread and butter rock alternative kind of song, which is really good because beabadoobee's more tone and what she does the rest of the album, I think, is more in like an indie grunge kind of thing. So
the first two are like
that's good.
Yeah, the first two are straight like '90s grunge throwbacks, which is that's what she grew up with. That's what she really like admires and stuff. But Diet Red was a good, like that's a good song where that just feels like good alternative indie rock right there. Like that sounds like early 2000s, like late 2000s even, style of all indie rock, and I thought it was very good too.
Yes.
So it's nice to hear that pivot as well, because that was what I was worried of the first two after Worth It. I'm like, okay, I really like Worth It, but make sure you don't just stick with grunge the entire time, and thankfully she didn't.
Yes. There's a range within there for sure. We can continue. We're just at Worth It. We're 2 songs in. So.
Yeah. After Diet Red, you have Back to Mars, which is like this little acoustic thing, like just a minute and a half, which is almost a throwback to her bedroom. I wouldn't say bedroom rock start. Like when she first started, it was just her and acoustic guitar, just talking about random stuff basically. But it's nice to hear that as a little bit of a break right after that. I'm glad. One thing I do really enjoy at this album is which songs are where. I think it's perfect. Every song belonged where it needed to be. There's little breaks in between where it needed to be. There's nothing that felt too long. Because there's easily, you could have made it way too top heavy or way too bottom heavy, but there's those little acoustic breakers in between, and there's a couple slower songs in the middle that perfectly align each of those stuff. So
I also think, especially with beabadoobee's like thing, she has a pretty good sound and range, but there's a way where it can get overwhelming, especially in a 40-minute album, which I was worried about. She's done a pretty good balance with like having these like shorter projects where I felt like, okay, this is about as much as I want of this like really good thing.
Yeah.
But I think combined with the overall like maturity of the sound, making the instrumentation better, just the overall gradual growth that's healthy for her to have as an artist, it, like you said, it all flowed together, and I didn't really think so much as the album construction as much, in the sense that it didn't get in the way of me just enjoying the songs.
No, not at all, which is fantastic. Because one thing I was worried about, but it was nice, Charlie Brown right after Back to Mars is like, and there's 2 songs, Charlie Brown and Emo Song are like that, angsty teenage songs right there, like getting into it, or you're just like breaking shit and whatnot, like you're going into your own mind and everything, and that's where I'm like, I was wondering when that was going to start getting into her, because she also likes to do those styles tracks as well, and they were fantastic to do those two right after Back to Mars.
Yeah.
Slow it down and then get into like the very, very deep tracks.
I especially say Charlie Brown, and I promise I'm not trying to say this with any like sense of irony or trying to be coy, but especially around like the middle part as it transitions to the chorus, it just feels like Nirvana. Not necessarily the band, but even like sounds like it's a blissful kind of thing that's going on there. And then you add in the fact that like, okay, it is kind of grungy. It is kind of like a Kurt Cobain chorus in a way. There's like that. I want to like say this is like Nirvana. This is like Kurt Cobain exactly, because it's not really, but it's definitely inspired by those
exactly.
things. And
it gives you the same
things about that music that were really good back then make this really good as well.
Yes, and I think this is the best way of pushing like indie forward, pushing indie rock and rock forward in this regard is doing something old while making it fresh and new again at the same time. Because the problem with grunge was the vocals. Because you had Stone Temple Pilots, you had Nirvana, you had a bunch of other bands that all sounded almost the same because the vocals were almost all the damn same.
Yeah.
Granted, they were good, but at that time, it's just, you listen to it, you're like, oh, that's easy, you can throw it back to 90s, but you listen to beabadoobee and you're like, oh, wow, it's a girl who's doing it. She's writing it all. It's all just her. And with Charlie Brown, I thought that's like a very good song right after Emo Song as well, where Emo Song kind of slows it down and goes more into your Britpop style.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that as well, from going to your grunge inspired to then throwing it back down to Emo Song, where it's that more stuff where there's even like a little bit of electronic chime stuff, almost like late 90s, early 2000s Britpop wave going in, and I thought it was very good.
It's got that really nice shimmering turn of the century sound with the guitar especially. I think the guitar really
B-side OK Computer style.
Yeah, I even think like Oasis and Blur kind of things.
Yeah.
Even. It's really nice in that way. But like later Oasis and Blur, when they got their crazy out, which is cool because this is we're talking Blur and Oasis when they're like at their late 20s, early 30s, versus beabadoobee when she's like not even 21 yet, I think.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool kind of stuff here. Yeah, you can continue going through the end. I like Sorry.
I would say Sorry is fantastic. I think that might be the best song on the album. I think that and Worth It to me are my two favorites, because this one is just hits you in the feels when you listen to the lyrics, and when she yells, I'm sorry, back and forth, it really gets you into the emotions, and it's a fantastic song. I'm glad it was right after Emo Song. I thought it was perfect track selection again. And yeah, it's very, very good. What you got to say about it?
Yeah, I just like that it's just got a really good kind of melancholy pop construction.
Almost like it's reminded me a little bit. This one reminded me a little bit of Smashing Pumpkins a lot, just without Billy Corgan's horrible voice. Even though I love Smashing Pumpkins a lot, but goddamn.
I cannot wait to read the YouTube comments for that one, buddy.
Hey, I've listened to the entire thing. I love Smashing Pumpkins, all right? Like, Mayonnaise is one of my favorite rock songs ever made, so you can't call that.
Fair.
But you have a shit. It's like, I love Neil Young. But Neil Young has a fucking horrible voice. Like, I'm no cap, but...
With my opinions on Sorry, at least.
Yes.
I like its placement in, like, the beginning, near, end of the album, because if I had to, like, sort of critique it in this way, it's not top-heavy, but it's, like, middle top-heavy. The end lands it in a nice way, and I enjoy the end a little bit, especially the last two songs, especially the last song.
Yeah, Yoshimi Forest... Magdalene is a fantastic ending track. Yeah, the stuff after Sorry, there's 4 songs further away. Horn, Citizen, How Was Your Day, and Together are good tracks. Actually, I think I like Together a lot. But Together almost sounds like almost sounds a lot like Care to me. When it gets in, the drums are pretty similar, but then the chorus is a bit different and stuff. But that's when I could feel like, it didn't feel long per se, but those songs were the weakest point of the album, I could say. Because How Was Your Day did slow it down. I'm glad that, because again, that's one of those acoustic tracks where it's like throwing it back straight back to her beginning tracks, where it's, that what I talked about in the bonus episode, where it's that mic filter thing where it seems like you're far away or you have really shitty headphones, but it's a purposeful effect. And I did like that part for that, because it broke up the last parts as well. Because again, if you just go straight through and just have, your indie rock, so on and so forth, continuing is going to get boring after a while. So that's why, again, I love that part where it's just breaks it up. But Further Away and Horn Saracen were okay to me. How's Your Day is a good breaker, and Together and Yoshimi Forest Magdalene are fantastic.
To me, those songs like in between, Further Away, Horn Saracen, How's Your Day, even Middle Bit Together, almost sound like Space Cadet B-sides, or like the things that like you would take
Space
off
Cadet E for sure.
Yeah, you would take off of Space Cadet, which was a very good EP that we talked about on the beabadoobee bonus episode and in an Audioface review. Like liked it very good, and the thing I liked about it was that of the length it was, it gave you the great range of
everything you needed
at the time, and that's it, nothing else. If you had added those songs to Space Cadet, it would have like extended out a little bit longer. And I don't know if beabadoobee actually did this. I'm kind of just like over speculating based on like the sound. It feels like those like sounding songs are added here to kind of let the album like kind of land a little bit. And
I
finish
can
off.
see that.
It's not a bad choice. It's just that if I'm identifying the filler, this album's pretty solid up until like after Sorry, and then around there I'm like,
it's a little bit of filler, and then the last song is fantastic.
Yes,
I think it's one of my favorite endings of an album so far. It's the perfect thing that wraps everything up in a perfect rock song right there at the end, where she does like this little whisper effect halfway through and does different things, and now that's when you can tell that she's experimenting, trying to broaden her sound a little bit as well. But it's a very overall for her first LP, fantastic, and she had a lot of pressure to do it as well because you know she did this whole thing with the Fender Series guitars, all this other stuff with touring with the 1975, I mean blowing up on TikTok and all the other stuff that she's been doing. That amount of pressure for someone who's, I think she might just be 20 or she's still a teenager.
It's she's like 2021. Yeah, it's incredible delivery. And again, first album. There are a lot of passes that I usually give to first albums, like, oh, it's a little bit disconjointed and the songs are a little bit everywhere because it's a first album, or like any of those things.
But this for a first album, fuck.
For the first album is very good. And it is a good first album because there's a lot of work behind that and a lot of trial and error behind that. She's a fast learner, she's really good at that. So that has
it's kind of like the Japanese house, sort of, where like, artists for a bunch of years and you've refined your craft and make it good. Yeah, I like it. And now my thing is I want to see what else she can do, and I want her to broaden her music a little bit more, experiment more and everything. She has nailed down this indie sound. That is fantastic, but do the dive where you nail a sound and then completely flip it backwards and do something very different at the end of it,
I hope that she'll get to, like, if this album release cycle is good enough for her to maybe tour this a little bit. And
I would love her to tour this and get some feedback and stuff and do other things and see what works, what doesn't work, and then even start to, go on to different artists' work as well. Start to collaborate, I think would broaden it as well. And her vocals would be amazing on a bunch of different work.
Yeah, I am, of music in general, more optimistic about beabadoobee than I am about pretty much mostly any other artist this year, especially like new artists that are like cropping coming up right now. Very good work that came out, very amazingly talented, skilled, like you said, had a lot on her shoulders and delivered in a lot of things. The stuff we're complaining about are nitpicks, so
exactly,
we will,
because that's what we do. And it's a good album. So this is the whole Rock is Dead conversation, throwing it back a few years to where this is what needs to be done for the album, for the genre. So it's a fantastic album.
It's getting around the point where I think maybe during the holiday season, I'll replay the Rock is Dead conversation if we haven't done that as like a bonus episode. It's like pull back.
I would really like that because I would like that at the end of the year when we start doing awards, because there have been some pretty solid rock albums and a bunch of bands that have come back.
Yeah,
Psychedelic Furs, Flaming Lips, and so on have released albums that have more or less been pretty solid for rock. So, and this is a big thing with the younger artists coming out. So, anyways,
love it. That's why we do the podcast. It's enjoyable and it keeps us optimistic knowing that like there are people our age and younger who are doing shit very, very right. So the arbitrary scale this week, we do arbitrary scales because you heard what we said in the review. That's what our review is. Any sort of like idea to like add a number or a letter to it is just an arbitrary thing based on what the reviewers feel. So we keep it interesting. This week it is texts that's notable people get from their father from rehab. Maybe this is real. Maybe some of it we're just being a little facetious with. But this is such a really good album. This is not quite wholesome, but just like almost the same sort of like blissful, this is very perfect sort of thing as the Joe Biden text that happened between him and Hunter Biden that got leaked by the New York Post. It seems very much like Republican opposition research. Congratulations, you make Joe Biden look like a good dad.
This is a solid, like, I'm happy you're okay. I want you to do better. You're always welcome at my house. You know, I took care of your car. This, like, the whole wholesome theme where it feels good. And like, and when you get back on, I'll give you a gin and tonic, winky smiley face. Because you know deep down he throws it down as a bad influence, but it's good.
Yeah. It's like the dad who's like, has 2 daughters, has messed up a little bit, was wild in his past, but like, is now like 60, retired.
Exactly.
Like, smoking cigars. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Hey, you know what? We'll have fun, but that's... I got you covered. It's like the uncle dad. So
Exactly.